And now I want to bring in Marc, former chief of staff to Vice President Pence, as well as contributor to Meet the Press on CNBC. And Juanita Tolliver is an MSNBC political analyst. Marc, let me ask you about this gender gap, because I went on to buses full of canvassers in New York City, right? Most of them women. I sat around a brunch table with 4 20-something women on Sunday. I kept trying to change the conversation. They wouldn't stop talking about the campaign, how fired up they were. But that's New York City. So let's be, clear about that. But then you look at Ann Seltzer's poll, 65-year and older women, independent women. As she says, they're coming off the bench and getting into the game. From a Republican perspective, how do you view the gender gap?
Well, I mean, obviously it's significant, Chris. And I think there's a question about a strategy that says we're going to go after less likely male voters versus female voters 65 and above who are pretty reliable. That doesn't seem like it's a good trade-off in my mind for a strategy for the Trump campaign. I think the reality is that data is also seen elsewhere, not just in Seltzer's poll. Is that I think that it extends even beyond independent women. I think where you're seeing that, to your last question to Cornell, that other polls have shown of people who have already voted, a lot of women are crossing over, women Republicans, that is. So maybe not voting for Harris, but maybe just leaving the top of the ballot.
Are Republican women you're talking to telling you that?
Oh, I think that's definitely something that's there and it's visible. Now, at the same time, I do think Trump is doing better in certain Latino and African-American communities than typically Republicans do. But again, that is a bedrock as far as suburban women of what you need to win in a Republican coalition. And if they're bleeding those significantly, I think that's a big challenge for the campaign.
Let me throw out a question because, as Cornell just told us, Donald Trump doesn't get past 47%. And she's not over 50 in any, except for a margin of error at polls. Is there something going on here with Jill Stein and other, third parties? We know what happened, to Al Gore with third parties, with Ralph Nader. We know what happened with Jill Stein, with Hillary Clinton, that she would have won in 2016. So what do you and Juanita think about that?
Angie, look, I think that it was a huge strategic mistake for the Trump campaign to try to talk RFK out of the race. The reality is he always is going to be locked in at 45 to 47%.
That's when he tried to get off the ballot.
In 2016, he had 46%. In 2020, he had 46%. He has a very high floor, but a very low ceiling. He has ardent support that's never going to leave him, but he also has a cap. And so you want to dilute and have as many candidates in the field as you can. And as much as you make it a binary race, you're still not going to get above 46 or 47 if you're Trump. And so I think that hurts him not to have more candidates in this field.
Are you worried about a spoiler?
Always,
right? I'm a Democrat. I think that's the Democratic Party's sense of that concern after 16, right? After previous elections with third-party candidates. I think it's a question, as Marc raised, about who it hurts more. I do think it does hurt Donald Trump more, as we've seen some of those third-party voters say that he is a motivation for them to move away to third-party. Now, the thing I want to come back to is the older women, though. Chris, I was telling you about my Aunt Betty. Women see what Donald Trump represents, and they get angry because they know what life was like before Roe.
Tell us about Aunt Betty. Where did
Aunt Betty, Pennsylvania. She is a longtime voter, over 65 years old. I'm not going to tell you a specific age, but she is someone who is mobilizing her community right now. She says every time she sees one of those attacks from Donald Trump on VP Harris or any ads from Harris's campaign that highlight the impact that Donald Trump had on abortion rights by appointing those 3 anti-choice justices, she gets angry. And that means she's going to mobilize more people. She's turning out even her youngest grandchildren who are turning 18 and voting in this election for the very first time. And so that's showing the multi-generational impact that the older women have. And again, when women comprise 53% of the country, that's the last group you should alienate.
I was watching Antonia Hilton a little bit earlier. She was in North Carolina talking about the voters that she's interacted with, and she's been talking to a lot of younger male voters who have come out and said, well, my girlfriend says this is why this is important, or I'm voting with my girlfriend. A lot of men who are coming out because they don't like the way things have gone either when it comes to health care and abortion rights. We talk about it as a woman's issue, but there are signs that there are a lot of men who are voting on the policy 100%. As well. All right, Marc and Juanita, you're not going anywhere. You're staying with us.